kids, cooking those gourmet meals.
So I wrote this. This one took me 10 years to write, and you can ask my husband. Before we got married and had kids, I would spend between 40 to 80 hours a week writing, and that was usually through the night because yes, I had a full-time job, but I'm psycho like that, and I drink a lot of Mountain Dew. So I wrote all of my books. All 5 were done before I had kids. So after I had kids, I kind of put it on hold because I thought it's not happening. I did send out a million queries. It wasn't taking off, so I thought I'm going to start a family. If it ever falls in my lap, I have all the material ready to go, and I can hand it to him. And so things did kind of start lining up. I had everything ready to go with the lady that helped me, her publishing company helped me self-publish it. And so that was a 9-month process, but it was a lot easier to do because all the stuff was done. I just could send it to the editor, switch to graphic designing, and so on.
Do you have any kind of an English background as far as education?
No.
How did you deal with like sentence structure and proper sentence?
A lot.
Yeah.
I read a ton, and I'm a quick learner, so
Great.
I think that was my education. I mean, I've worked at like a marketing agency as a creative content writer, but it's freedom. Like you don't need.
Great.
You can put a space between your periods. And
Herb, I have a question.
Yeah, feel free to ask it.
Have you ever considered adopting an English accent? To go with your name, you know.
That's good.
I mean, when I talk about my writing, I like to say it's all in the material, really. You know, it's all there. So, even when I'm famous, we're not. Great question. Thank you. That's great.
I would be interested in like some sort of poll to see, you know, how your book signing events would go with an English accent and put a British accent.
I've heard people like me
spin
better
on it.
when I'm British. Yeah.
So you have hundreds of people show up.
You are from New England, so I thought that would, like, the New England area.
Yeah, it's true.
It makes sense.
It's the heritage. It's in me.
Oh, and I'll ask you a question, and I'm sorry I stepped away while you
No,
were
you're
talking,
fine.
so you might have answered this
Okay.
in your conversation, but with your broadcasting on the internet, who is your audience, and how do you personally interact with those people to encourage them on?
Well, obviously, I would say the audience is people who buy the book, but I am expanding the channel to anyone who likes to write or needs help honing the craft in any area. And like I was saying, that might mean if they want to write a short story or get published, or people who are looking for tips on how to write a resume or a cover letter, because writing is very different, but at the same time, you're still putting words down, and if you just need a little bit of help in some area, that's who the audience is. And I'm going to be connecting with them by doing regular videos, but as I was saying, live streaming is a really good way to bring people on board when I interview a professional in a specific field, to have people who have questions to come and say, hey, you know, I want to get published, or hey, I'm trying to edit something, or hey, I need to get a job, you know, what can I do in an interview along with my resume? So through the chat, they can actually ask the questions of myself or whoever I might be interviewing. And I'm planning on doing those about once a month, but people will be able to come on and actually ask their questions to people who have been there and done that. So they don't even need to have read the book, though. Obviously, I would like that to happen. I just want to be out there and help people who like to write be able to do that, because I enjoy doing that. And yes, I want to, you know, make money and share my book with the world, but if I can help people who want to write in any capacity, that is how I know I'm doing the right thing, and that's what I want to do. So that's how I'm reaching the people, and that's basically what I'm offering to them.
Nice, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for Herb.
Oh yeah, it's her.
So you work at the Deseret News.
Yeah.
With that and writing books, like how much time does that essentially take out of your day? With working at Deseret News, I'm assuming you do a lot of research. So you have that on top of writing for them, and then on top of writing your own personal books. Is there any hard times, you know, seeing family, friends, girlfriend, or anything?
Yeah. No, there's been, so I work a lot. I don't just work 40 hours at work. I work usually like 50 to 60 easy at the Deseret News. And then on top of that, I usually write. And so, yeah, I'd say my social life I think a lot of people know that I end up like canceling last minute a lot of the time because either I have something else to write or like I just break down and I need to sleep or something. So there's that, and then like I also to just I do have the benefit of I don't really like have anything to do on Sundays because I'm not I don't go to church on Sundays because I'm just not that kind of guy. So I have Sundays free, and a lot of people I know do go to church on Sundays, so I can use that day to write. And I just I take the train to work. I find time. I think that's the thing that a lot of people. I think a lot of people are always like, oh man, I never have the time to do this. Like, but like you do. You have 24 hours in a day, and you have. I mean, whether you're raising family or like streaming on YouTube all the time, I mean, you will find the time to write. You just gotta figure it out, manage it. So yeah, but there are days where I'm just like, just can't. Yeah.
I'm not going to ask a question to her, but I just going to make a comment. I think with the way you dress and your beard, you need a pipe.
With the British accent.
Wow, pipe. All right. That and a British accent, I'm good to go. That's really funny.
I'll ask. So I have a question for everyone. I don't know if that's allowed, but I'm curious what the hardest part or the scariest part is about writing, and how you overcome it. Because I know that Brittany, you mentioned killing some of your characters. And I don't know if that's your hardest part, but I'm just interested.
Are you going first?
Sure.
Yeah.
We'll go this way.
Saying you're done. If you have written anything ever, you know that when you look at it, it changes. And then when you fix it and you look at it, it changes. Then when you fix that and you look at it, it changes. Saying you're done is the hardest thing. Because I sort of have a philosophy where as soon as I finish writing something and say it's done, whether that's sending it off to editing or whatever, I don't look at it anymore. Because I will find things that I want to change. And it would actually be an interesting experiment to come up with a story and to edit it once a year for your whole life and just see how the revisions would change, because I'm sure that would be a really interesting sort of study in the way your brain works and how your writing evolves. But to answer the question, saying I'm done, to know when I'm done is the hardest thing. Definitely.
Do you want to go? I've been speaking a lot. I'm making fun of my beard.
That's like 100% the same. It took me so long to say I was done with this. I mean, 10 years is like only a decade, right? But to pick something different, it would probably be like not just killing people, but like putting something bad in there but making readers love it is kind of hard. Like, because I am a fan of like the darker novels, like Gone Girl and Wuthering Heights. Like that is like one of my favorite books ever. People either love that book or they hate it. But like trying to put dark elements into my book but make people love it is kind of hard. I don't know. I like a little bit of me is in all of my characters, and so there's like journal entries in there, and I won't tell you which ones they are. But it's like kind of therapeutic in a way, so it's scary, but it's also really healing, I guess, maybe.
For me, it's kind of like I guess it's more like cliche what my biggest thing is. But so back home in Massachusetts, I have a lot of friends who are very into literature and very critical of my writing. Like my best friend back home that hates my writing, so that tells you. That I guess that's the scariest part for me is like finally putting it out there, because I know I have dedicated people who will read it, friends and stuff, and just knowing that like they might not like it or that kind of thing. That gets me, But that's very cliche, the whole like critics, how the critics are gonna feel kind of thing. But yeah.
So I have a question for all of you too. Now that you're kind of on the other side of having your first book published and out there, what piece of advice would you give anyone trying to write a book or aspiring to become an author?
Am I going first again?
Go ahead.
Reverse.
Oh, okay. I'll go. Treat it like a job. I think it would be the first thing. Like, set a really strict schedule with yourself. Not like set times, because as writers we're like the most psycho people ever, and all of a sudden we wake up at 4 like, that's it! Yep. And then you start writing. And on that note, always write it down. If you have a thought, write it down. You'll forget it, I promise. don't think, oh, remember it. You won't. Write it down and make it like a job. And when you love it, you will make time for it, no matter what. So that's probably mine.
Mine is kind of like goes against the previous question, and it's just like don't get scared. Well, no, because I think a lot of people, you know, like Rob was saying earlier, a lot of people are like, oh, I want to write a book, and then they just don't, or they start it and they stop. But I think if you put in the time and you work, you know, there's limitless possibilities. I mean, whether it takes, you know, half a year, 2 years, 10 years, whatever it is, I mean, you know, eventually gets done. So I would just don't be scared, go full throttle and get it done, and then fix it later.
I would say whenever you write, no matter what you're doing, even if it's just a school assignment, you're going to hit a hard patch. You're going to hit something that you can't get over. I don't necessarily mean writer's block. I just mean something that you might not like. Even if it came easy, there might be something that you don't really like of yours. Don't worry about it and keep moving forward, because sometimes the best way, sort of like if you've been sitting for a really long time, you just need to get out there and stretch to feel good. Just keep writing and keep moving past it. Eventually, you'll move on, and whether you go back and edit it to where you do like it, or even if you don't, I mean, there are going to be some things that you might not necessarily always feel 100% about. If you keep moving on, you're going to get to a place that you enjoy, and you're going to get to something you feel comfortable about, and focus on those when you're writing. It doesn't matter if it's a poem, a school assignment, or a story. Focus on the things that you really like about what you're writing, and when something tough comes along, just keep moving, and eventually you'll get to something you like.
Write fearlessly, edit ruthlessly. I don't know who said that. It was me, but I like that quote. Oh yeah.
So do any of you guys like find yourself writing characters that are like based off of people in your life? Herb, I don't want to ever read about a short little Italian girl that tells people how to say Nevada.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll just hit this first. I used to, when I was growing up, and I'd write. So like a little quick story. Like in 6th and 7th grade, I wrote this young adult teen drama story, and all my friends wanted to be in it. They would take. I would have notebooks, and they'd take it and read it, and be like, "Oh, where am I?" But I realized shortly over time that's a horrible way to make friends, because you don't make friends. And anyway, so and I used to base characters off real people, but then I read something or heard something recently that said that when you base it off real people, you're very limited in what you can make that character do, because especially if you know the character, you want to know the character intimately, so you kind of got to know the person intimately, and most people are you can't go outside certain boundaries. You don't know what they would do, and so it's sometimes easier to have the influence of a real person, but not base the character entirely on that person. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. You kind of roundabout know someone in your life that's got those tendencies, and so you think it's fun and you want it to be a part of your quirky character. I also think it's funny when people, this is kind of tangent, when people write books and their characters go out of character because it's what they would do, and it's my biggest pet peeve. Your character doesn't do what you do. Your character does what your character would do. So some of my characters do things that will really piss you off, or be like, yeah, I do that because it's what the character would do, right? Not what you would do. So.
I see it as, it's not so much basing characters off of people, is I look at the world as inspiration is everywhere, and at all times you're sort of absorbing everything you see. It's not necessarily saying, okay, this person has X, Y, and Z traits, they are this combination of whatever. It's, you look around, you have to be observant, you pull bits and pieces. I mean, it might just be even in passing, something you see here tonight. You just pull little things you see, and all of that sort of gets stored. So when you sit down and write, at least for me, all of those things sort of connect together, and I feel and see the characters. So it's not so much I'm saying, okay, well, I'm going to compare him to this person and sort of try and write as close as I can in a mirror. It's all of these pieces sort of come together and form the shell of a character or a setting. And that's because you're paying attention to everything. You're taking inspiration not just from the world around you, but reading, movies, video games, anything you can, so that when it comes time to create a character, you don't have to just base it off of someone. You pull everything you need because you have access to these resources, and then you can create people that have any, level of depth that you need. So it's not so much for me just comparing one person. It's really taking everything I see and do and creating that.
What's one book that was like super important or formative for you guys as writers?
Informative or like our inspiration to start
Like
writing?
formative, like made you want to write or inspired your writing.
Mine were for sure the Harry Potter novels. I'm like Harry Potter or bust. Like, I love those books, and I love her development of world building. I think that's something I'm going to work on in my writing, the complexity of world building. But then I also like Gillian Flynn. I've said that 1,000 times, and all the Bronte sisters. Love them.
I would basically go anything Stephen King's written. I guess really it started with his Dark Tower series, like I mentioned earlier, but anytime like I haven't been writing for a while and then I start reading Stephen King, like for some reason, I don't even really write horror or thriller stuff, but it just like clicks. And I'm like, I gotta do that. I gotta write. So yeah, anything Stephen King's written pretty much.
I guess everything, but no, I have a lot of things that really set me off. But different aspects, I took different aspects of different books. So one of my favorite series is the Earthsea series from Ursula Le Guin. And she really helped me understand how to create a world that you can actually experience. I feel that her worlds are very tangible, that when you read, you can smell, see, touch, all of your senses. And obviously, any Tolkien stuff helped me come up with a narrative and a really good story. But in college, I got really interested in Greek literature. And a lot of that indirectly helped me sort of create a believable world, because you have these myths and legends that people, believed and shared in these really grand stories that were part of their culture. And just the way that those worked and influenced the people really sort of struck a chord with me that I wanted to reproduce in my own book world, to help the people in my world see how they interact with myths, religion, laws, and because all those things are sort of contained in the the Greek tragedies, and that really got me going to help bring everything together. So I guess those three areas are probably the biggest inspiration for me.
One more.
Okay.
So you have interactive book with website and YouTube. How prevalent is that, and do you see that as being the future of the way that books are going to go? That you think there's going to be a lot of interactive stuff with online with authors?
Was that just for him, or was that
No,
both?
for all of you. I mean, is it something that we're going to see more of?
Yeah, I mean, like, so I can't tell, like, I lost count of how many people have asked me if my book's on audiobook, and that's huge right now. So I definitely think that is an aspect that's coming out there, and I know I have friends who do the audiobook and the Kindle at once. And yeah, so I think definitely there's this idea of like reading a book without reading a book, and I think that's growing. And I think what you're doing is really cool with the website and being able to like interact, and yeah, kind of the fan fiction idea. I mean, 50 Shades of Grey, I know it's not everyone's favorite book, but it was born out of fan fiction of Twilight. And so I think like, yeah, just being able to go online where there's so many possibilities, I think that books will have to go that way, because if you're just going to stay in print your whole life, you're going to die. And that's coming from a newspaper guy, so say what I say. So, well, I'm not, yeah, so.
Do you have any plans of going online or interactive?
I have a website, I have an Instagram, I have a public figure Facebook page. I've deactivated my private ones. I think everybody's online. I don't know if that's good or bad. I think when I would like share a blog post on my private Facebook, it'd get like 700 views, whereas if I don't, it'd get like 12. I mean, that's comparison-wise. However, I didn't want to be a social media author, and I'm such a paper person. I'm like, I want the book, I want to smell it, I want to feel it, and I want to sleep with it. So, I have it on ebook, and it will be an audiobook probably eventually, but personally, like, I'm not the face of social media marketing. Not me. But it is the place to be right now.
So what inspired you?
I'll make it quick, because I know we gotta get to it, but I see technology as really letting people be creative in the way they want. You know, I have my own specific ideas about helping people write and creating sort of a world that's more detailed than you can just put in the book. But technology will really allow people to do exactly what they want, whether that's, you know, little bits of flash fiction that they throw out to a specific audience or publishing their own comics. Technology makes it so that you can write what you want now and you're not limited to just a book. So I really see that people are going to use books as a way to expand what they do and just sort of use technology to make books what they can fully become instead of just be contained between pages. So that's what I think people can do and will happen. So,
All right, let's give them a hand.